transformation.
Thank you, David, and good morning, or good evening, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to join you. Thanks also, Johan, for so beautifully framing the food systems challenge based on the Earth system science, which I think is the basis for all of our work, and I think Johan's beautifully described how we can't separate out just climate on Monday, biodiversity on Tuesday, and nutrients on Wednesday. They're all interconnected. I also like to thank you, Joao, for steering the Action Track 3 and synthesizing so many game-changing solutions. My job as high-level champion is to drive action from non-state actors. So that's the really businesses, investors, cities, and regions in support of the Paris Agreement. I do that with my partner in crime, Gonzalo Munoz from Chile, who incidentally is a dry farmer as one of his many hats. So there's a particular interest in this agenda, and I'm learning a lot from him. The idea there is this is a whole of society challenge, and we work with hundreds of partners in a coalition called the Marrakesh Partnership, and one of the action tracks is on food and land systems. So we are particularly keen for the kind of holistic and collaborative approach which I think you're modelling so beautifully in the Food Systems Summit. You mentioned the race to zero. I should also mention the race to resilience. The race to zero is the big global campaign we have to try and get as many non-state actors as possible to commit to the science of getting to zero emissions by 2050 and halving by 2030, the carbon law that Johan mentions. And we're making really good progress there with over 4,600 businesses, cities, investors, regions, universities on that path now, and that's growing every day. We also have launched a race to resilience, recognizing that this is not just about mitigation, but also around coping with adjusting to the changes that have already been set in motion, which we're experiencing all around the world today. And in our race to resilience, we particularly focus on the most vulnerable communities, the coastal communities, the urban poor, and the smallholder farmers. So again, very, very relevant. For every sector of the economy, we've published a kind of synthesis work on what we see as the pathway to zero. We're focused right now on trying to reach tipping points in terms of the major actors committed to getting to zero. So, trying to get to at least 20% of the major food supply industry and of the investment community. We've, working with Mark Carney, worked hard to gather together a very strong coalition of over 250 financial institutions now with over $88 trillion of assets under management committed to getting to zero. And of course that includes, and we incorporate that getting to nature positive by 2030. We try and take a very systemic approach. So we're looking at the role of the financial community, the role of farmers, the role of technology to innovate both the kind of regenerative and restorative practices that we've already heard about. Also, some of the technological developments in terms of alternative proteins and fintech to provide better extension services to farmers. I would just conclude by saying that we think that collaboration across sectors and across geographies is at the heart of the kind of radical change which Johan's outlined to take the food system from being a negative on all those four planetary boundaries to being a driver of positive change, particularly with my hat on thinking about turning from being a source to a sink, a very productive sink. And we see really encouraging signs of improved collaboration amongst all those partners. Why I'm delighted to be here, why we'd like to partner with good friends like Agnes Kalibata and Salim Hook, who are both ambassadors for the Race to Zero and Race to Resilience campaigns, and why we're working very hard to make sure that the transformation of the food system is very much a part of COP26, and of course beyond for the decade of delivery. And I will continue in my role as champion until COP27, working with an African champion yet to be appointed, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So just to sum it up, I think that we put science at the heart. We've focused on science-based targets for climate, and we're now promoting science-based targets for the other planetary boundaries, which the Global Commons Alliance and the Science-Based Targets Network are working on, so that we can get to a carbon zero and a nature positive future as soon as possible. Thank you, David.
And thank you, Nigel. Ms. Marema, I'd like to ask you, how are food systems central to